Well, good thing is the podcast offers great benefit. I have great health insurance.
That's true. How's the life insurance?
Yeah. So we wanted to jump in, talk about Greg Newsome obviously coming up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like decision time for the Browns. I mean, in theory, you can make him play on the last year of his deal. I actually talked about that, saying, why not make a play on the last year of his deal? If you don't know if you should pay him or not, then just make him play. I guess the thing you risk there then is if he balls out, you might have to pay him way more, or he might just be ticked and leave. Or, but then there's a chance, if he doesn't ball out, you sign him back for free, or you can move on from him because he's not playing up to the standard. So it's a situation where I don't envy being Andrew Berry or Stefanski or Schwartz or those kind of guys making these kinds of tough decisions.
Yeah, so the Browns actually have until May 2nd to make the decision on Greg Newsome money-wise. So if they do decide to pick up Greg Newsome's fifth-year option, for everybody wondering, that means Newsome's 2025 season will be fully guaranteed $13.4 million. And any base salary that he would have here in 2024 that's not fully guaranteed would then become fully guaranteed, which for Newsome is none because 2024 is all guaranteed this year. Anyway, the only cornerback, I thought this was interesting, the only other cornerback from 2021 slated to make more on his fifth-year option than Greg Newsome is Patrick Surtain from the Broncos.
That's crazy.
First-round draft picks, they get those. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and actually it's funny if you go look at what each player in the first round from 2021, what each guy's fifth-year option value is if they're picked up. It's like the top half of that first round because it's all based on your playing time. Did you make any Pro Bowls? Did you win an award? Like all that kind of stuff. So the numbers are kind of all sporadic in the chart, like for the top half. And then once you get to after halfway, it's pretty much just the first column for everybody. And then there's guys like Greg Newsome that are, worth more on a fifth year, but it just goes to show you, looking at the fifth-year option stuff, that the first round's a crapshoot. Just because people complain all the time, the Browns don't have any first-round picks. If we're picking the second half of the first round, the odds of that guy being even wanting to be picked up for his fifth-year option is pretty slim.
Half the league's undrafted.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like obviously you want to – your chances of hitting on, like franchise-changing players – the higher your draft pick, obviously, the better, But it's like you said, it's still a crapshoot. I mean, the Browns had top end first round draft picks my entire life. It's been
for sure
awful for 3/4 of it.
Look at Carolina; they just traded up for the number 1 pick, and they're not even sure that that's their guy. You know what I mean? That's a lot of capital to go up and get a guy, and then now you're not even sure.
Look at the Niners.
Yeah,
how many first round draft picks did they give up? And they used one on Trey Lance. He played, 12 games?
I thought it was less than that. Yeah,
4.
He started 4 games for him.
Yeah. 4. You know what I mean? The draft is a total crapshoot. Now, what separates the good teams from the bad teams is if you can hit on a fourth of your guys and you can build a roster, an elite level roster cheap. So you can pay, so you can sprinkle in some of those veteran guys that you can pay to go with the young talent. And I think Andrew Berry's done a great job of identifying talent. I mean, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, I think could be considered maybe streaky, but I feel like he's good more than he's bad.
I think he's on the higher end of cornerbacks.
Yes.
When he's in the slot. If he's on the outside, I'm not as sure about that.
But you know what I mean? Like we JOK played at a Pro Bowl level this year. DeJuan Jones looks like the steal of the draft. So Andrew Berry's been really good at identifying talent outside of the first round. Obviously he's had some misses, but go find me the GM who hasn't.
Oh yeah, they all miss. I mean, it's just, that's the draft. We just said it's a total crapshoot. I mean, last year, it's just interesting because last year, now people will look at contract situations and say, well, we should have never picked up Jed Will's fifth-year option last year. That was 100% the right move last year because we didn't know we were going to get DeJuan Jones.
Right.
Correct. You have no idea. As far as you've got your bookend tackles, your starting guys, you're locking them in. That's why they extended Conklin last year. We don't know we're going to go get a guy in the 4th round who's going to be a high level starter his rookie season.
And who knows what happens with, I know it's the right side, but Conklin's coming off another like major injury. Who knows what happens with him? I mean,
I don't want to be like mean, or I don't even know how legal this is, but if I'm the Browns, I'm like asking that dude, I'm like, hey man, this is a rough game. Think about how sore you are sometimes. Like I bet you could take this money and just really enjoy retirement. Like, go hang out with the wife and kids, man. You earned it. I'd be pushing that guy to retire, because if he retires, we save a bunch of money.
I mean, Conklin's not young. He's 30 years old. I because I just did the offensive line state of the Browns, and there's not a whole lot we can't cut him. Cut him's not going to save us any money. We could trade him post June 1st, it looks like. And even then, the dead cap's like almost $6 million, and the savings is a little over $6 million. So
it's one of those things. Like I said, I'd be, hey man, look, I'd just be texting him pictures of Cancun every day, like
it's pretty sweet
mojitos. I'd be like, hey man, I don't think I'd be sending pictures of Cleveland like in the cold, or pictures of busted up knuckles, and maybe like his old X-ray photos. And like, I'd be,
a picture of Jed Wills trying to block.
Yeah, like all kinds of stuff pushing this guy to retire, because I think that's because I don't think you're not going to sit Dewan.
I don't know how you could.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that, yeah.
And you're probably not going to move. So then your best bet would be to move Dewan to left. And, we argued against that mid-season, but if you have an entire offseason to get in there with them and work on it and transition him to the left, then do you move him to the left? But then you're still paying Jed Wills on his 5th year this year.
Right.
So it's one of those things where it's a tough situation. Picking up the 5th year option for Jed Wills was, like you said, it was the right decision at the time, but it's definitely tying our hands a little bit.
It is now, but like I said, if we don't get DeJuan Jones, if that whole thing doesn't develop, now we're going into this year going, well, we need Jed Wills.
Yeah, for sure.
We need Jack Conklin. Now we kind of have the luxury of, we got DeJuan Jones, so maybe we can have a little flexibility, see what happens with these other guys. But
speaking of flexibility and where you would be if you would pick up Newsome's 5th year or not, does the cap increase sway your decision at all?
Justin, do you?
No, I mean, so for me, I like Greg Newsome and his role with our defense in the slot. I think there's times where he plays really well. Now there's some times where he's not that great. There's some times where he misses tackles, and and every time he's lined up on the outside and he's got to go like against a number one, it's pretty tough. The crazy thing for me is I've seen a lot of people saying like, yeah, we just had the cap increase and we have all this money now. We don't. The last numbers I saw we're still in the red. Like we're like 8 million still in the red. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. Now I trust Andrew Berry in that situation, but like for me, I'm very on board with keeping that defense together as much as possible. Like I thought that what they had going on there was a special unit, and Blake's touched on it. Like we have injuries all the time in the secondary. You know what I mean? Like he's a big believer on you can't have enough cornerbacks, whether they're roughing the number one spot on the outside or not. So I'm on board with picking up the option. You know what I mean? Because from what I've seen from some of the free agents and stuff like that, I'm not sold on spending like $28 million on like a Mike Evans or even, you know what I mean? Something like that. So I'd keep that defense together.
Yeah, I mean, and the nice thing about the May 2nd deadline for picking up the 5th year options is the Browns can do the draft first if they want to.
True. That's
true. I mean, you can go through the draft, and if you end up landing a cornerback at a nice spot that you feel, wow, we got a good player here. I don't know. I've seen Greg, and again, this is just media stuff. None of this comes out of from the Browns. None of this is a report. I see his name floated around as a potential trade piece just because he's still on that rookie deal. It gives another team flexibility with a guy who's a pretty good cornerback in the NFL so far. And I just think I don't see the rush. If the Browns want to wait till May 1st, May 2nd to actually pull the trigger on that, cool. I mean, go through the draft first. I don't see any problem with that.
As it stands now, I would pick it up.
If the deadline was tomorrow, yes, I would. Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
I do like the idea of you can do the draft. I haven't looked in to see what corners are available and what position we would be in to get them or whatever. But as it stands today, like you said, you can't have too many corners.
Right.
Because these guys, all of them, miss a game here and there. And we saw, a game makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go into a game, especially we got some teams coming in this year.
Yeah, we do.
You know what I mean? Like we're not playing a bum schedule. We got a tough schedule this year. And so I don't want to miss a game because we had to start practice squad guys at the corners because we let Greg Newsome go or traded him for somebody who's doing nothing on the other side of the ball. So I would pick up his option. I think he's coachable. I think he likes being in Cleveland. I like the energy he plays with. Somebody said, I wish he'd stop dancing after he makes an ordinary tackle.
I don't mind that. Bro, I think that's part of the swagger of the defense.
Jim Schwartz encouraged that.
Yeah. I think you got to let the guys play. You got to let them have a personality. And if his personality and that's what gets them up and gets them going and keeps them fired up and gets them to play at a high level, let them do what they want.
Denzel Ward does it too. Like he does his celebration thing after every incomplete pass. The thing is, if these guys are going out there with the mentality that they're a badass, elite, top of the league defense, they're more likely to play like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they did.
You got to manifest it.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So, no, I agree. I guess we can kind of then transition into, so with the cap increase, we're still in the red. You got to think Andrew Berry's going to rework contracts.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
I would definitely see us. We're going to have money to spend. I'm not going to say we're going to have $100 million to go out and go crazy, but we're going to have money to do, I would say, some things to add a couple pieces if we want, that kind of thing. We've seen some chatter about his helmet's what bothers me. His helmet is definitely weird. That's super funny. That caught my eye.
It's funny how we notice things during the games and then other people will say, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not the only one seeing this.
I just kind of looked up and saw that comment and made me laugh.